Hello and welcome. My name is John Strand, and in this three things video, we're going to talk about three things as it relates to chain of custody and incident response. This is one of those areas that a lot of people get really super tweaked about because they're afraid if they just lose access to the evidence for just a mere couple of seconds, then the entire world is going to come crashing down around them. It's like those stupid eggs they give you in high school. They're like, this is like a baby, and you're like paranoid. So you just take it home and throw it in your fridge and pretend that you fed it on a regular interval. I don't know how I got into the eggs thing, but just bear with me. All right, so let's start with the first thing. There are lots of chain of custody forms online. Whatever one you use, it doesn't really matter. Just as long as you get a form that says who has custody and who is that custody given to. And whenever you give evidence, let's say a hard drive to somebody else, they should fill out your chain of custody form, and you should absolutely be filling out their chain of custody form as well. So that's going inter-organization. So if I'm going to take evidence and I'm going to give it to the FBI, then they're going to sign off on my chain of custody form saying that they're maintaining and they're gaining access to that evidence, and I will sign off on their form. If you have an organization that you're sharing evidence with and they don't have a form, don't give them the evidence. Like if they're like, oh, dude, I'll totally just fill this out when I get back to work. No, it needs to be signed off for both of those forms. And really, it should just say, where is the evidence being stored? Who has access to that evidence? You should also have something in your incident response plan that talks about where evidence will be stored and what are the protection mechanisms for that evidence. It's under lock and key. It's protected by a moat with alligators, standard things that you tend to see in IT shops everywhere. Just go get some forms, make sure you fill them out, make sure that you actually use them. The next thing is sign off every time. I've already talked about this, but hell, it's so important. We're going to talk about it in its own area. If you're handing it off, you're going to sign off on your chain of custody form that you handed it off to somebody, and that they're going to sign your chain of custody form that they handed it off. And then you're going to do the same thing on their documentation as well. And it should be something, I would say, I like printed pieces of paper if it's leaving an organization. Who's checking it in? Who's checking it out as well? This becomes critical because of the next thing that we're going to talk about, which is what happens when something goes wrong. This absolutely does happen. So let's imagine for a couple of seconds that I love McGriddles. Like I go to McDonald's and I absolutely love them. I do absolutely love McDonald's McGriddles. This is not an advertisement for McDonald's. I'm sure they want nothing to do with me, but I love them. And let's say I go to McDonald's and I eat a whole bunch of McGriddles, let's say like 8, right, in one setting, which is totally a thing that could happen. Yep. And in my McGriddles haze, I forget the hard drive that I'm investigating on the table at McDonald's. And I drive away. And then I realize an hour or two later when I sober up that I left it there. I turn around, I go back to McDonald's to get my hard drive. And my McGriddles pusher behind the counter is like, sir, would you like fries with that today? I'm like, no, not now. I'm not here for the McGriddles. I'm here for the hard drive. And they hand you the hard drive. Is that hard drive still admissible in a court of law? A lot of people would say, no, it is not, because it has broken the chain of custody. And that is not true. According to the Daubert rules of evidence, evidence is admissible in court as long as there is no evidence of tampering of that evidence. So if I did hashing and I did verification of that evidence and the hashes match before and after my McGriddle stupor, then that evidence is still admissible. It's going to be up to a judge and a jury what is the weight that they're going to give that evidence, but it is still technically admissible because there is no evidence of tampering of that evidence. The reason why I talk about this in this thing is I've worked with people in incidents that believe they've lost chain of custody and therefore they've thrown the evidence out preemptively, thinking it's not going to be admissible in court. Don't make those mistakes. Now, of course, you want to document that it was left at McDonald's. You want to be honest. You want to be on the up and up about that, but you don't want to destroy the evidence. By the way, you always want to do the best you can. But what I'm saying is if you lose custody, it's not the end of the world as long as you have good procedures. Everybody makes mistakes. And with that, that is your three things for incident response and chain of custody. I'll see you in the next video.